another myth of grief, replacing the loss with something positive. Now, we all do this. This is super common, right? We don't acknowledge, and the key to this is not that grief is unique and individual. And so one of the scenarios that we do when we try to replace the loss with something positive is not acknowledging the special relationship to that which we lost. And we try to fill that with a void. You can't fill it. There's something special about that loss. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel it. And so this is very common when we have a loss of a pet. And then sometimes what we do is a week later, 2 weeks later, we go to the adoption location and we go get another pet as soon as we can because the pain is very difficult. Now, I appreciate that. It's very tough. Yeah. But we also want to acknowledge that special relationship that we had to that previous pet that we have. We also see this in relationships, right? We do this rebound relationship. We lose somebody romantic in our life. We have a little bit of difficulty. And then we jump to the next relationship really quickly. And we know what the experience of those things can often be there. So this is very important there to not replace it with something positive. So this can actually manifest itself in a much more serious way, okay? The masking of the pain can actually get into places of complex grief that lead to layers of addiction. Sometimes the loss that we have or avoidance to feeling the pain or feeling the experience and allowing the grieving process, we may jump to addictive-oriented behaviors of alcohol, drugs, food, sex, many different things in our life that we can kind of get into. Shopping is a big one actually too. And so we want to be able to be aware and mindful of, are we doing something to short-term energy relieving behaviors to just give ourselves a little bit of space? Or are we in a scenario that we are kind of getting into a habit because the pain is very remarkable? So we want to really honor and recognize the relationship and the unique place that we have with the people that we may have lost or the things we may have lost. One of the key elements of this that we can really get into that can be so special is letter writing to the thing or person that we've lost in our life. This is such a good exercise, actually. If somebody that you've lost recently, but you're feeling this grief and it's continuing, and you're not able to get to the other side of some of the pain and the feelings that you have, and you've learned to become aware of the emotional space that you're in and identify those emotions, this is something that we can kind of get into by writing a letter and say, dear, whatever the name of that person is, and then write them a letter. And one of the ways of the letters that you can write as journaling prompts is the things that you wish you could have said, the things that you wish you had done better, and the significant moments. There's 3 elements in this. I didn't put that in the notes. The things that are left unsaid, the things that you wish could have been better, and the things that you are the significant moments of their life, of your time together. By going through this process, by sharing that, we get to this profound state of completion. And completion and letting go are very much tied together, especially associated with the grieving process. When we have a space of completion, letting go becomes very natural, and the grieving starts to release into our life in a dynamic way. We can remember without being in pain, okay? And so journaling is an evidence-based practice that's very, very helpful. And so letter writing can be a really great aspect to this. Okay, I want to share with you a little bit of a story. While working at the hospital several years ago, they built a new tower for the nurses. And so new patient tower was being built and an old tower was not necessarily coming down, but they were transitioning. Well, all the nurses don't like change at all. They don't like change. They like things to be the same. But the old tower was a little grungy. It was old. It was built in the 70s. It needed an upgrade. So the hospital built this new tower. But as soon as everybody transitioned into the new tower, a lot of senior management and directors of the nursing department and the ICUs were like, I don't understand what's going on. The nurses are not happy with this new location. We did so much work. We worked for years to be able to set them up, to be able to have procedures and everything going okay, make sure they had everything that they needed, taught them, oriented them. They came to me and they said, what's going on here? What's the problem? And I said, oh, they're grieving. And they all took a step back and they said, oh my goodness, they're grieving. I said, they're feeling that they haven't completed the loss that they had for the old tower, and they're still connected in their mind to it. They haven't been able to come into what the new location is because they haven't been able to let go comfortably to the old one. So I got invited to several ICU departments and staff meetings, and it was like, oh man. And it was so powerful. Thank you, Tracy. Not an overgeneralization. My bad. Just my experience in it. But a little bit of humor there. But yeah, absolutely. There's this whole thing about people about helping them grieve. So we did that. We did the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I had them take notes and write a letter to the old hospital tower to help them transition. And within a couple of weeks, the morale went up. And so we were very excited about that. The directors were very stoked. So you can even do this letter writing process into things that are inanimate, very simple things, very fun things that are happening in life, especially if the grief continues to perpetuate. Okay, moving on. Oh, yes. We grieve based on the relationship to that which we lost. Each relationship is individual and unique. We also grieve differently based on the situation. We will grieve very differently to unexpected losses compared to those that we have prepared for. So this is very clear, right? If a loss that happens from a traumatic situation, we will grieve very differently to it. And so then the process to that grief is also something that we can be able to facilitate. So key takeaways. Recognize the unique relationship to that which you have lost. Seeking relief from pain is absolutely appropriate. Recognize short-term reliefs versus long-term behaviors that create habits. Now, I really want to make this clear. It's not about being perfect. Sometimes you got to binge watch some of that Netflix. Sometimes you just need that tub of ice cream. Sometimes, you go on a little bit of a shopping spree. Sometimes we need something to kind of get us out of a funk that we might be feeling, especially with a loss. So having something that is short-term relief versus a behavior that becomes a habit is something that we want to really pay attention to. So kindness, loving compassion, taking space as necessary is super important for the grieving